Prepare to get gas because it's time for the Week in Gear. This week, G.A.S. turns a 4-track into a pedal, Fender mixes vintage sauce with ultra spice, and Gretsch almost broke my self-control. This episode is sponsored by the comments section. So if you enjoy the show, feel free to pop a comment underneath and tell me your pick of the week. But stay tuned because you could get an overdrive pedal for less than the price of a coffee. I'll tell you about that in a bit. Now, let's kick off this week's most exciting gear releases with something from Jackson. Sorry, Miss Jackson. Woo! Jackson have just announced 3 new additions to the Pro Plus Series Pure Metal collection. It's a mouthful. And if All Black and Moody had a family crest, it would be these. The Warrior WR1A and the King V KV1A are unapologetically streamlined. They have a single Fishman Fluence modern bridge humbucker, a Floyd Rose 1000 double locking trem. They've got poplar bodies, a 3-piece maple neck, which is neck through, and has a 12 to 16 inch compound radius ebony board. 24 jumbo stainless steel frets, and lumen lace side dots. You get minimal controls and maximum menace. And these are priced at around 1,500 notes each, which is kind of to be expected for this sort of model, but it doesn't stop there. There's also the concert bass CB1A that sort of matches the looks but adds bass-friendly brains. I dig these. I don't think I would buy one, but I'm sure they're coming up there with guitars of this sort of style and price point. Everything looks good on paper. And if your tone brief reads faster, louder, and meaner, tick, tick, tick. Let's have a look at the gasometer. And yeah, it peaks at wish list for this. I love the single pickup purity, but my stage fright returns every time a King V points at me like an angry raven. By the way, there's 6 items this week. I don't know if I said that at the beginning, but there is. And this is number 5. If, like me, you remember recording on a 4-track cassette recorder with dreams of fame and fortune and the band that stays together forever, and then also memories of bouncing down your drum mix to a single track so you could add yet another guitar track, you'll probably also remember the angry sound made when you go into the red on the meters. Well, now you can get fuzzy without needing to dig a Tascam out of the dust. G.A.S. packed the Porta Studio 424 preamp vibe into a pedal, right down to using the period-correct UPC 4570 and NJM 4565 op amps. The layout mirrors a cassette mixer. So you've got volume, bass, treble, gain 1, which would be the trim, and gain 2, which would be the channel, the fader. On the top, you've got standard jack input and output, plus you've got a balanced XLR with ground lift on the side of the pedal, so you can go straight to interface or mixer and live your McGee dreams, but do it without lifting a large machine and hoping the cassette is still intact. Although you don't actually need the cassette. You know what I mean. This is more convenient. Runs on 9 volts as well. The street for this is around 250 notes, depending on where you live and where you purchase things from. Sonically, it seems to run from chewy, sort of elasticy cleans to did someone overcook the input, please turn it down, fuzz. All without menus or screens or cassettes. It is quite amusing that the sounds many of us tried to avoid years ago are now desirable. But for me, the accidentally finding the sound of a close mic'd drum kit overloading the 4-track preamp is just such a fun sound. I'd love to pick one of these up just for that. I'd also need a drum kit. If the Tascam 424 preamp is something you desire, this pedal is actually far cheaper than picking up an original 4-track recorder. which is super weird. I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. As for the gasometer, add to cart for when your tone needs more fun and less grown-up pedal buying decisions. Let's take a quick break from the gear to talk about some more gear, but it is the wannabe overdrive or double overdrive from Behtronics. You can get this pedal for a mere £2 at the raffle in the link down there. It's all perfectly above board. We raffled off a Fender Strat recently that has reached its new owner and he's very, very happy with it. I hope you are as happy with this pedal as he is, and I'm happy that you get something that I've played in video. So, link to that raffle down there. Go there and get yourself a pedal for less than the price of a coffee. Now, back to some more gear. At number 4 is the Harley Benton tube head switch. 2 amps, 1 cab, 0 smoke. Nothing. If you've ever tried to AB 2 tube heads into a single cab, and then by the time you've plugged the second amp in, you've forgotten what the first amp sounds like, Harley Benton have come to the rescue because the tube head switch could help you out. This little tiny unit safely routes amp A and amp B to one cabinet with silent switching. You've got big A/B LEDs and crucially, very crucially, a safety load so the idle amp isn't ever open circuited. There's also a buffered instrument input for guitars or pedals and a direct input for preamps or modelers. You can run this on a pedal board, but that's going to require quite the spaghetti of cabling going back to amps and cab. But you can also put it back of the stage or somewhere safe with your amps and then use a remote switcher to switch between amps. And that should keep things nice and tidy. This is a great feature. And this is the one thing that makes this whole product make absolute sense to me. Although, actually, the second and possibly equally as important thing is the price. Because, being a Harley Benton product, you would imagine a value-based price. And you would be right! It is less than 100 notes, which makes it a no-brainer for most. And in any other week, this could have been my pick of the week. However, at this price point, I'm left wondering if the amps really are safe. I feel like I lack the trust necessary to run this without actually heavily testing it first, ideally using someone else's amplifiers. It's got to that point where it's so cheap, it seems too cheap. And that's wrong of me, but that's how I feel. Let's take a look at the gasometer. Yes, hello. It is hovering between add to cart and buy it now. This is fantastic value, if it works. Speaking of fantastic value, Behringer are back with another Moog pedal copy, and this week it is wobble time. The BM11M low-pass filter is an analog low-pass filter pedal, no surprise there, with 2-pole/4-pole modes, cutoff, resonance, drive, and an envelope filter with smooth fast, amount, and mix. Rough translation of all that, it'll auto-wah, it'll throb, and it'll synth sweep anything you feed it. Guitar, bass, a drum box, a burrito, not a burrito. It also does modern. USB-C/MIDI plus expression inputs for real-time wiggles. It's got it all, including the wooden sides. If they are wooden, in fact. The launch pricing hovers around 100 notes, so if you want Moogish motion without used Moogish money, this is part of a very fun rabbit hole. In fact, my delivery arrived this week. I'm going to go and get it. Now, I bought 2 of the... I can't open this box. I bought 2 of the 4 pedals released so far. Which one's this? The BM13 Phaser. And I am hovering over getting this low-pass filter as well. So I'm going to give this a go, and if this delivers, I could see the low-pass filter giving me some wobbly nonsense very soon. Gasometer is at Buy it now. Instant whoosh. Also wub. Occasionally, wow. Frequently, why am I still sweeping this at 3 a.m? If you want Moog sounds without paying top price for used pedals and you're okay with buying Behringer, there really is no argument against this whole series. Alright, here we go. Fender, yes, that Fender, have released a new series of Strats and Teles and given it one of the longest names ever. Fender American Ultra Luxe Vintage. Feels like they're running out of names to make things seem better and more expensive. This is vintage feel where it counts, but ultra modern appointments where it helps. I've got one right here. I'm going to hold it while I talk about it. You might have seen me review this week, so let's hold it and appreciate its glory. This new high-end line blends era vibes, so 50s and 60s Strats and Teles, plus an HSS 60s Strat, with player-first upgrades. So we've got 10 to 14-inch compound radius, stainless steel frets, modern D-shaped necks, which are actually pretty good. Not too thick, not too thin, never thick enough. Ultra rolled edges on the fretboard, tapered heels, lumen lay side dots. There they are. They don't look very lumen lay right now. Maybe they don't have lumen lay side dots. Or maybe it's just when it needs charging. They definitely have side dots. They also have Graphtec tusk nuts and S1 switching. Now the pickups are pure vintage by era. The HSS has a Haymaker humbucker, which you might have noticed in the Meteora, and sounds fantastic and splits brilliantly and actually sounds quite single coily. The finishes, and here's the big thing I guess, use heirloom nitro for a very lightly aged look. They're made mostly in Corona, California. I say mostly, I don't know where else it could be made, but it says Corona, California on the back. They come with a hard case and they are priced around 3,000 notes, which is a lot, but this is, you know, top-end Fender. The relic checking may split the crowd, which honestly is very on-brand for relics, but with this one here, I've reviewed it very positively this week, and you can watch that by clicking the card up there. If you fancy it. I recommend you do. It's got this guitar in it. To sum this guitar up, the sounds are superb, the feel is on point, and these are simply the most sensible way to get a vintage kind of look and feel on stage or in the studio without compromising by using parts that have since been replaced by things that make life easier for guitarists to play without worrying about being properly in tune and stuff like that. So this kind of looks and feels vintage, not as much as my custom shop Tele, but if you like the feel of something that's played in and not too squeaky, you're going to love these. And although I love my Tele, it doesn't always make sense on stage because of the, you know, the stuff that isn't modern. That makes a lot more sense from a modern point of view. Yeah, it really, really does, and I might have to get the Tele at some point. But I'm never getting rid of that. Don't even ask. Right. Gasometer, wallet on fire. If you want the best that Fender can offer, and if all of the guitars in the range perform like this one here, this is the series to save for. And if it's too much money, alternatively, learn to relic your Squire with a hairdryer. Do not do that. Do not say, don't tell anyone I told you to do that. Don't do it. Don't do it!
Andy's pick of the week!
Yeah, my pick of the week. Back in late 2024, Gretsch dropped the Jack Antonoff signature Princess guitar, and I kind of lost my mind over how wonderful it was. And I never got one. And even though I've searched online since, I cannot find one for sale at a reasonable price. But good news, everyone! The Gretsch Corvette is back in the ELECTROMATIC series, and it's actually affordable. Let's look at some specs. Solid mahogany body with beveled contours, bolt-on mahogany neck, which I think looks absolutely beautiful up against those bodies, with a comfy Performance C. I don't know what that is, but I'm thinking thin C, modern C. It could be anything, but most probably a thin C. 24.6 inch scale length, 12 inch Laurel fretboard, and neoclassic thumbnails on that fretboard. This also has a Graphtec nut. This is a new bone nut, and those humbuckers are twin 6 humbuckers. There's a master volume with a treble bleed and an adjustable wraparound bridge. Many of these specs are usually reserved for guitars that come with a hefty price tag. But not today, my friend! The Gretsch ELECTROMATIC CVT double cut comes in vintage white, Havana burst, ooh, and witchwood. Yes. But they will only set you back between about 400 and 500 notes, depending on where you live. I cannot pick a favourite finish, and I refuse to be judged. Do your worst. This Gretsch reissue almost scratches that princess silhouette and attitude itch. It is a different recipe, of course. The Antonoff's Fidelis Sonic single coils and tricky controls, and this one is an H&H and a wraparound, but both of those, or these three and that one, have the same sort of pick it up and grin factor. This one has it for a fraction of the price. Also, there is a matching CVT bass at a 32-inch scale, so if you fancy some low-end swagger, I think this looks very nice as well. And honestly, I'm possibly more excited by the bass. I'll keep taking the pills. A look at the gasometer, and oh my goodness, the wallet in my pocket is not there because it's on fire. Look at the pics closely. The finish is a lot more complex and interesting than it first appears. If I buy all 3 colours, it's not hoarding, it's interior decorating. Thank you to the wonderful people that support the show on Patreon. Their names are up on screen. Hello, everybody! And these people support the show right here on YouTube. Hello to you as well. Thank you very much. And here's a special thank you, in one breath, hopefully, to the top tier members. Alinta, Buddha Blue, Boom Shakalaka, Buzzle, Dirk, Doug Paget, Huge Erection, Yindrik Strelka, Johnny McBadminton, Mike Lute, Andrew Morgan, Gary O'Neill, Josh Tamberg, Man Dude Bro, PQ Deads, Robin Kelly, Sarang Narayan, and Southern Panda 33! Thank you, top tier members. Now, don't forget to check out the links in the video description down below, and I will see you next week for some more gear you absolutely need. Bye-bye! Harley Benton have come to the rescue with the Harley Benton tube head. Hey!